Usually when we grab a stack of sources for a deep dive, we're sort of looking for a pattern, a theme,
Right.
something that, ties a story about a court case in L.A. to home prices in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And sometimes you really have to squint to see it.
You have to kind of force the puzzle pieces together sometimes, yeah.
Right. But this week, the theme is not subtle at all. It is like screaming at us.
Yeah.
We are looking at a landscape from Silicon Valley all the way to Washington, D.C., where the rubber is finally meeting the road. We're seeing these massive institutions just hit a wall and have to make these violent, sudden pivots.
It really feels like the bill is coming due, doesn't it? For so long, the whole vibe was, growth at all costs, move fast and break things.
Ideology over everything.
Exactly. And now here we are in early 2026, and we are just seeing the consequences play out in real time.
Totally. We've got AI CEOs walking back years of their own political rhetoric just to save their valuations.
Yeah.
We have social media giants facing a legal strategy that could actually dismantle their entire business model.
And Tesla seeing its first ever revenue drop and deciding to bet the whole farm on robots.
Right.
And then on top of all that, we have a new administration in the White House that, surprise, surprise, is finding out that the machinery of government is a lot harder to turn around than a campaign bus.
So let's dive into this. The loudest noise coming out of our sources this week is definitely centered on that tension in the AI world. Specifically, how the leaders of OpenAI and Anthropic are navigating the political reality of the new Trump administration.
It is a fascinating study in pragmatism versus principle.
So set the stage for us. What kicked this all off?
The catalyst was the recent violence in Minneapolis involving ICE and Border Patrol. And, we don't need to get into all the graphic details, but it was just a tragedy.
A horrible tragedy.
2 civilians dead, including Alex Preddy, whose name has really become a rallying cry.
And the tech world, which, as we know, generally leans quite progressive, was just on fire over this.
On fire is putting it mildly. Employees at these major AI labs, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google DeepMind, they were demanding a response. They wanted to know unequivocally, are we building the pools that facilitate this kind of thing?
And this is where we see the two different paths really diverge. So let's start with Dario Amodei over at Anthropic.
Okay, so Amodei took the direct public route. He went on NBC News, he posted on X, he called the event a horror. But the most important thing he did from a business and, an employee morale standpoint was the specific denial. He clarified that Anthropic has 0 contracts with ICE.
Which is a very clear line in the sand. He's basically telling his staff, we're not part of this machinery.
Precisely. It was a moral stance, absolutely, but it was also a retention strategy. He calmed the room.
But then we have Sam Altman at OpenAI. And this played out differently.
Very differently. No press conference, no, big public statement on X at first. Instead, he sent an internal Slack message to the company, which, as these things always do, leaked to the New York Times almost instantly.
The leaky bucket of Silicon Valley.
Always. In the message, he did condemn the violence. He said ICE was going too far. He tried to draw this sort of nuance between, the standard deportation of criminals and the specific violence that happened in Minneapolis. But that wasn't the headline.
No.
The headline was the praise.
This is the part that I think gave a lot of people whiplash.
It certainly did. In the same breath as condemning the administration's agency, Altman called President Trump a very strong leader. He said he hoped the president would unite the country.
A very strong leader. Okay, we have to pause on that. Because if you rewind the tape to, 2016, Sam Altman was not calling Trump a strong leader.
Far from it. In 2016, Altman wrote a pretty famous blog post where he called Trump a demagogic hate-monger. He compared him to a dictator.
Wow.
The language was scathing. It was about as far from strong leader as you can possibly get.
So we have to ask the cynical question here. What changed in 10 years? Did Sam Altman have some massive personal epiphany, or is something else moving the needle?
You just have to follow the money. It's that simple. In 2016, OpenAI was a nonprofit research lab.
Right.
In 2026, OpenAI is a behemoth trying to raise capital at an $830 billion valuation.
$830 billion. That is nearly $1 trillion.
It's a number that demands government cooperation. When you're that big, you aren't just a software company anymore. You are a utility.
A utility, yeah.
You need massive amounts of energy for your data center's energy that is regulated by the federal government. You need favorable trade policies to get chips from Taiwan. You need antitrust regulators to look the other way.
So if you're Sam Altman, you just can't afford to be the resistance anymore. You have to be a partner.
Exactly. I mean, Anthropic is chasing a $350 billion valuation. Still huge, but they're playing catch-up. OpenAI is trying to cement its status as the default AI of the world.
So that strong leader comment.
That is the tax you pay to do business at that scale.
It's the valuation tax.
It is, and that creates this massive dissonance for the employees, right? You have this group called ICEout.tech that's organizing workers at Apple, Google, Microsoft, Meta right now. And they're looking at their CEOs and saying, wait a minute, you're selling out our values to protect the share price.
And speaking of share prices and unhappy users, this tension isn't just happening at the top of the food chain, is it? It's trickling down to companies like Pinterest.
Yeah, this is a smaller story in the stack, but it just perfectly illustrates this whole pivot theme. So Pinterest just announced they're cutting 15% of their staff.
15%.
That's 675 people losing their jobs.
And the reason given wasn't we're broke or anything like that.
No, it was a strategic reallocation. They are firing humans to free up cash to hire for AI-forward roles. They are pivoting the entire company to be AI-centric.
But here's the irony that just stood out to me in the report. Pinterest stock took a beating recently. It dropped 20% in November, specifically because users were complaining about AI.
They were complaining about AI slop.
Slop? Is that the technical term now?
It's becoming one in the industry. It refers to all that low-effort generative AI content, you know, the weird images, the hallucinated recipes, just garbage text that floods the feed.
Right.
Users go to Pinterest for human curation. They want to see a mood board made by a person with taste, not an algorithm guessing what a cozy living room looks like.
So let me get this straight. The users hate the AI content. The stock dropped because of the AI content. So the company is firing the humans to double down on the AI content.
It seems counterintuitive, right? But this is the fear of missing out. The leadership looks at the market and says, if we are not an AI company in 5 years, we won't exist. So they are willing to degrade the product in the short term, give you the slop, in the hopes that the AI eventually gets good enough to replace the humans they just fired.
It's a huge gamble. They're betting the farm that the tech improves faster than the users leave.
And that is a very, very dangerous bet to make.
And while Pinterest is dealing with the court of public opinion, the titans of social media, Meta and Google, they're dealing with an actual court, a very serious one in Los Angeles.
This is the big one, the social media reckoning trial that just kicked off this week. It's a landmark case. The defendants are Meta for Instagram and Google for YouTube.
Now, usually when we see these kinds of lawsuits, the tech companies just brush them off. They have that magic shield.
Section 230.
Right, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Can you explain that briefly for anyone who hasn't been following tech policy for the last, 20 years?
Sure. Section 230 basically says that an online platform is like a bulletin board. If I pin a libelous note on a community bulletin board, you sue me, the person who wrote the note. You don't sue the guy who owns the board. The platform is not responsible for the content that users post.
We're just the pikes. We aren't the water.
Exactly, and that defense has worked for decades. But the plaintiffs in this LA trial, who are representing a 19-year-old identified as KGM, they are trying something totally different. They aren't suing about the content. They're not saying, you showed her a bad video.
So what are they saying?
They're arguing product liability. They are treating Instagram and YouTube like a physical product, like a car or a toaster.
So like if a car manufacturer installed faulty brakes on purpose.
Precisely. They're arguing that the design of the app is defective. They claim that features like the infinite scroll, the intermittent reinforcement of likes, the algorithmic sorting that pushes extreme content, that these were all intentional design choices meant to override a child's self-control.
Wow.
They're calling it a defect that caused injury, in this case, severe depression and suicidal ideation.
That is a fascinating legal pivot. Because if you frame it as a design defect...
Section 230 doesn't apply. It just goes away.
Yeah.
Section 230 protects speech. It does not protect a defective machine. If the jury decides that the algorithm is a weaponized design, the shield is gone.
And Mark Zuckerberg is set to testify in this.
He is. And you have over 40 state attorneys general watching this like hawks because they've all filed similar suits. This is the big tobacco moment for big tech. If they
Right.
lose this, they can't just pay a fine. They would have to fundamentally redesign how the internet works.
No more infinite scroll, no more algorithmic recommendations for minors.
It would effectively break the engagement loop that makes them all their money.
Which is why they're fighting it so hard.
And why TikTok and Snap settled. They just wrote checks to get out of the blast radius. But Meta and Google are standing their ground.
Okay, let's shift gears from the digital economy to the physical one. Because this whole consequences theme is hitting the housing market pretty hard right now.
It really is. We have new data from Redfin for December 2025, and it shows a historic cracking in the market.
And the headline number was about cancellations, right?
Yes. 40,000 home purchase agreements were canceled in December. That's 16.3% of all contracts, the highest rate for a December on record.
So essentially, 1 in 6 people who said, I'll buy this house, gave to the finish line and then just said, actually, never mind.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, usually it's money, interest rates.
Rates are part of it for sure.
Yeah.
But the real driver here is inventory. For the last few years, we've been in a crazy seller's market. If you were a buyer, you were just desperate.
Oh, yeah.
You found a house, you made an offer, and you waived everything. Oh, the roof is leaking. I don't care. I'll take it.
You were just happy to get a set of keys.
Exactly. But now inventory is finally rising. The lock-in effect is breaking. So buyers have options again. They get the inspection report. They see the HVAC is 20 years old. And instead of panicking, they say, fix it or I walk.
And looking at the data, they are definitely walking.
They are walking in droves. Look at Atlanta. That's the hot spot right now. 22.5% of contracts were canceled there.
Wow.
Sellers outnumber buyers there by over 80%.
So the leverage has just completely flipped.
It has. It is officially a buyer's market in these metros. The sellers maybe haven't emotionally accepted it yet. They still think it's 2022, but the buyers are absolutely voting with their feet.
You know who else is seeing customers walk away? Tesla.
This is probably the most significant economic indicator in our whole stack. Tesla is projecting full-year revenue of $95 billion for 2025.
Which, sounds like a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but it represents a 2.8% drop from the previous year.
And for a company like Tesla, which is priced like a high-growth tech stock, any kind of drop is a dirty word.
It's catastrophic for their narrative. This is the first annual revenue decline in Tesla's entire history as a public company. The story that Tesla only goes up is now officially dead.
So what's eating their lunch? Is it just that everyone who wants a Model Y finally has one?
It's partially saturation, yeah, but mostly it is competition. Specifically from China, BYD and other Chinese manufacturers are producing EVs that are, frankly, arguably better built with better battery range for significantly less money.
And they're flooding the market.
They're flooding the global market. So, faced with this decline, Elon Musk is doing what he always does. He's pivoting.
Trying to change the company's DNA in real time.
That's a good way to put it. He's telling investors, stop looking at us as a car company. We are an AI robotics company.
This is the whole robotaxi and Optimus play.
Correct. He wants to pivot to autonomous cabs and humanoid robots. And he isn't just talking about it. He is spending massive amounts of cash to make it happen. Their capital expenditure, their CapEx, is jumping to $11 billion in 2026.
So let me get the math right. Revenue is dropping, but spending is skyrocketing.
That is the definition of a bet the company moment. He is burning cash to build a future that doesn't quite exist yet, hoping it arrives before the core car business completely collapses.
And they are really taking off the training wheels to prove it, right?
Yeah, in the Austin pilot program, they just removed the human safety supervisors.
That gave me chills. So, empty front seat.
Genuine driverless rides. No human there to grab the wheel if the AI gets confused. It's a massive risk, both legally and financially. But Musk feels he has no choice. He has to prove the tech is real to justify the whole pivot.
It really is adapt or die across the board.
Yeah.
Which I guess brings us to Washington. We have a new president, a new administration, and the expectation was that everything would just change overnight.
The Trump revolution, right?
Right. But when we look at the 2026 Medicare Advantage rates, it looks an awful lot like the Biden status quo.
This is a classic case of what we call bureaucratic momentum. The Trump administration released the rate announcement, and they kept almost all of the Biden administration's proposals intact.
Wait, really? I thought the whole platform was deregulation and, overturning the previous agenda.
Rhetoric is easy. Healthcare math is incredibly hard. They kept the 5.06% payment increase. They continued the phase-in of the 2024 risk adjustment model.
Can you just briefly unpack what a risk adjustment model is?
Sure. It's the formula the government uses to decide how much to pay insurance companies. So, if an insurer takes on a sicker patient, someone with diabetes or heart disease, the government pays them more. The Biden team tweaked this formula to be more accurate and prevent overpayment.
And the insurance lobby hated it.
Hated it. Everyone expected Trump to just scrap it on day one.
But he kept it.
He kept it, because once you start turning that ocean liner, you can't just spin the wheel back without crashing the entire system.
But surely they had to change something to put their stamp on
No,
it.
they did. And this is the most Washington detail of the week. They changed the name.
Of course they did.
The Biden team had a reward program called the Health Equity Index. The Trump team kept the program, kept the funding, kept the mechanics, but they renamed it the Excellent Health Outcomes for All Reward.
EO for all.
EO for all. They scrubbed the word equity because it's a political buzzword they don't like, but the policy, it's identical.
So the check still clears, it just has a different memo line.
Exactly. It's a great reminder that underneath all the political theater, the machinery of government often just keeps chugging along. The deep state isn't some conspiracy, it's just complexity. You can't dismantle a trillion-dollar payment system overnight.
Before we wrap up, we have one final story in our stack. And it's a really heavy one.
Yeah.
We need to talk about UPS and the aftermath of that crash in Louisville.
This is the final and most tragic pivot of our deep dive today. As listeners might recall, on November 4th, a UPS cargo plane crashed in Louisville. It killed 14 people, 3 crew members, and 11 people on the ground.
Just a nightmare scenario.
The preliminary data came out this week. It shows the left engine of the plane, an MD-11, burst into flames. The aircraft only reached 30 feet of altitude before it came down.
30 feet. It barely got off the runway.
And the response from UPS CEO Carol Tome was immediate and decisive. She didn't wait for the final NTSB report, which can take a year or more. She announced the immediate retirement of the entire McDonnell Douglas MD-11 fleet.
The entire fleet.
All of them. Grounded immediately and now permanently retired.
That is a massive operational hole to fill. The MD-11 is a workhorse for them.
It is, or it was. It's an older airframe.
Right.
Pilots have had concerns about it for years. But this just shows that when the consequence is that high loss of life, massive liability, public trust, you don't iterate, you don't tweak the safety protocols, you stop, you clean the slate.
And they're replacing them with Boeing 767s.
Yes, 18 new 767s are coming in, but it's a forced pivot. They're modernizing the fleet not because they wanted to spend the money right now, but because the tragedy gave them no other choice.
So let's pull this all together. It really feels like every single story we touched on today is about a reaction to pressure.
That's the through line, isn't it? The consequence era.
We have Sam Altman reacting to the pressure of a $100 billion capital raise by completely shifting his political tone. We have Pinterest firing humans to buy AI because the market demands it.
We have Meta reacting to the threat of a legal precedent that could just break their algorithm. We have Tesla reacting to Chinese competition by betting it all on robots.
And UPS reacting to a tragedy by grounding an entire fleet.
None of these are proactive, blue sky choices. They're all defensive. They're survival moves.
It really strips away that veneer of visionary leadership, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When things are going great, CEOs talk about mission and ideology and changing the world.
Oh, when the walls start closing in.
When the walls close in, they do whatever's necessary to keep the lights on and the stock price up.
Which leaves us with a question for you, the listener. We started this deep dive talking about the tension in Silicon Valley between moral outrage and political reality.
And we saw who won.
We did. So in 2026, is ideology just dead? Because looking at this stack of stories, whether you are in the Oval Office renaming a healthcare program or in a boardroom praising a leader you once criticized, it seems the only thing that actually moves the needle anymore is the bottom line.
Money talks.
Everything else is just a press release.
Keep learning and keep questioning. We'll see you in the next deep dive.